Hello everyone. Could you please confirm if you can hear me well? Alright, so in today's class, we'll start with one of the server configuration. So we had a 1 week gap. Meanwhile, I hope you guys have gone through all the other topics that we have covered in the previous sessions. So before starting today's session, just wanted to check with you if you have any questions from any of the previous topics. Go ahead. If you have any questions, feel free to ask your
Hello.
queries. Yes.
Yeah. Hi, sir.
Hi.
Actually, hi. I was practicing the LVMs, and
Perfect.
Yeah, so when I deleted my third partition, which is the swap file, and when I restarted it, it couldn't restart in the graphical mode, and I couldn't run some commands like fdisk-l, and I couldn't restart with init6 command too.
Init6 command is used to restart your system.
Yeah.
Point number one. And what are the steps that you have followed? Do you remember the steps, what you have done?
Yeah.
Can you
So
brief me those steps quickly?
yeah, so first I unmounted the partitions, then
Unmounted which partitions?
I mean the SDF4 and SDF4, which is
No, no,
mounted.
no, no. No, no. You're not supposed to say in terms of SDA 3 and 4.
Okay.
Tell me which partitions you have unmounted. That means, have you unmounted a root partition? Have you unmounted swap partition? Have you unmounted boot partition? Like that.
Oh, okay. I unmounted the swap partition,
Okay.
and the other one, I don't know what's the other one. Uh, but I kept
So
the
what?
boot one.
No. Okay. So let me put my question this way.
Hmm.
What are you trying to achieve?
Sorry.
So what were you trying to achieve? I mean, what was the intention in your mind? What were you trying to practice at that time? First point.
Okay. I was practicing LVM using two primary ones.
Okay.
So
And mhm,
at the time it was perfect. So I would like successfully create the LVMs.
mhm,
But when I went for the extendables,
mhm.
so I use the same method which you use for the choosing 5, 6, 7, first mixing up 5, 6, and they later adding 7 to 5, 6. So at
Perfect.
that, yeah, so at that time, when I deleted my two primary partitions which I created before, and when I restarted my system, it lost all the files, it couldn't start in the graphical mode later. Did you got, I mean,
So are these partitions mounted and do they have an entry inside FSTab file?
yes, Saran, I gave part probe and
Okay. See, I mean, we had this scenario like if these partitions are mounted and
mhm,
they have entries inside FSTab file,
mhm,
and then you have manually tried deleting these partitions and restarting your system. So whenever your system starts, what it will do is it will try to read the fstab file. Okay, so
okay.
at the time of starting the system, it will read the fstab file. It will take the mount points from the fstab file and it will try to manually mount them and make the system available for you. So that is what permanent mounting means. So even with respect to permanent mounting, the manual mounting process happens when you start your system. So you are not going to do it manually, but the system will do it for you and make the mount points available. So in this process, if you have made some entries inside fstab file, the system will look for those entries whether they are present or not, and it will try to make a mount between those. It will try to create a link between those 2 points. So here
Okay.
what happened is you have made entries inside fstab, but you have actually removed those entries. So the system is unable to correlate between these two. So in such scenarios, the system might uh, usually go into a troubleshooting mode, or it might throw some error for you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what the usual behavior is, but I'm not exactly sure what has happened in
Yeah.
your case. But what I would suggest is, if you are able to log into your system, okay,
Mm-hmm.
then simply check the mount points. If you have deleted those partitions, remove the corresponding entries from the fstab file,
Okay.
save it, and then you restart your system, and then see how the system behaves.
Yeah. Yeah, sir, now I got it because I made the permanent one in the FS tab using vi etc FS tab. So maybe that's a problem.
Yeah, so what I
Yeah.
would suggest is try to delete those entries from the FS tab file, and
Okay.
then try restarting your system. So if the issue still exists, then we'll think of an alternative way of on how to troubleshoot the same problem. But most of the time, so this should be the case.
Okay. I installed that one, so I'm gonna try the same way, and I'm gonna try repairing that. If it happens same, I'll get back to you tomorrow.
And another thing, what I would suggest is try taking a screenshot of
Mm-hmm.
the situation. Like, okay, so this is what the error page I keep getting. Take a
Okay.
screenshot. Okay, and
Okay. So,
the second thing is, one
mm-hmm.
second. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. So these are the partitions. fdisk-l. So take a screenshot of this.
Okay.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
then mount grep SDA. So this will give you, I can understand, okay, these are all the partitions that are present in your system.
Mm-hmm.
Mount pipe grep SDA. So even though
Mm-hmm.
these many partitions are there, I
Mm-hmm.
only have mounted / root partition,
Mm-hmm.
boot partition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Point number 2. 3 is swap on -s. So it says that swap partition is enabled. So enabling is different, and then having an entry inside FS tab is different. So this partition is enabled, but it is not present inside FS tab. So swap. So I want this output also, number 3, and
Okay.
then cat etc FS tab. So this will tell me what are all the partitions present in the system. So okay, swap entry is also there, like that. So by just looking at these 4 command outputs, we can quickly check if there is any issue with respect to the output, I mean with respect to your partitioning issue. We can quickly understand what the problem is. Okay,
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
alright. And while creating partitions in this output, if you have created LVMs, the corresponding here, it is Linux. I hope you have modified it to LVM,
Yeah.
file system label. Forgot,
Yeah.
I guess here.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
LVM Linux.lvm 8E
perfect.
code.
Okay, cool. Just try those steps. We'll see how it goes. Okay, we'll fix it. That shouldn't be a big problem. Any other
Okay.
questions?
Nothing. Nothing, sir. That's it.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so in today's session, we'll start with NFS server. So with respect to every server configuration, I remember telling you a bunch of steps. I mean, the default steps that we will go through. By any chance, do you guys remember what those steps are? It's like, what are all the things that we are going to check? What are all the configurations we will make? And what kind of testing we will do? What is the final step we will follow? So I said these are the common steps that we will follow for each and every server configuration. Do you remember those steps? Any of the participants? Okay, so I have seen one answer, which is uname-a. So this is what uname-a gives. It will tell you what is the version of the Linux operating system, what is the architecture, etc. Another answer I have received is top command. Top command will give you the list of processes running in the system. So both the answers are not relevant to my question. My question is, so when learning about a service or a server in a Linux system, I said we'll follow these steps. So we'll start from here. Okay, so I said we'll start understanding what the server or the service is all about. Okay, for example, today we'll learn about NFS service. Okay, please make a note, NFS service. So the first step is understanding what NFS service does for you. The second step is knowing the packages that are related to NFS service. Okay, at least remember one package or how to install it, and to install the package. And then also we have seen some commands using RPM where we can explore the contents of those packages. Okay, quickly. Uh, just get the list of all the files that are part of the package. So what are all the config files that the package provides? What are all the binaries the package provides? Okay, and what are the man pages? What are the library files it provides? So it would help you if you, if at all you are making the notes on NFS service. Okay, so this is the name of the package. So these are the list of the files that are available as a part of the package. It will be very useful for you for your reference. So once this is done, we are going to start or start the service, and we are going to enable it at the boot time, right? So these are two important steps. Then what are the configuration files? Most of the time it would be one file, one config file where we will be making the changes. So what are the changes that have to be made inside the configuration file? So once the changes are made, restart the service or run the corresponding command that would reload the changes that you have made with respect to the service. Okay, so once these changes are made, this is in the server side. So then we move to the client side. So in the client side, what package needs to be installed? And then important thing is there must be a good connectivity between the server and the client system. So in the client system, once the packages are installed, try to connect to the server. Okay, so it depends. For a DHCP service, what does the client do? It will try to get a dynamic IP address from the server. It will try to get access to the shared file system. So like that, test the service from the client side. Okay, see whether you are able to make use of that service or not. Okay, so once this is done, uh, remember I said for CentOS 6 by default, a firewall is disabled. Whereas for CentOS 7 by default, firewall is enabled. So far we have not reached the firewall topic, so it will come later, but as and when necessary, I'll give you the few basic commands that would help you to keep going. Okay, so next comes firewall, security related stuff, anything that lies with respect to that server, if at all they are necessary. So then we go through that particular topic, enable the security or make it feasible. So with that, we are done with that particular server configuration. So all these steps I would say would be like up to a beginner and intermediate stage. You would have an understanding of the server. So once you keep working on that particular server in a real-time environment for a few years, making use of other advanced features and all, then you would get to the next level. Okay, so these are the list of steps that I want you to remember with respect to every server configurations. So if you have not made a note of these steps, I would suggest that you make a note of all these steps, and we will keep repeating the same with respect to every server configurations. Well, I so, another important thing is, so I would request the participants to participate, uh, in asking the questions, because the way you ask me the questions, or The way you talk about a particular topic helps me to understand, the level of uh, expertise, or the level at which you are currently. So it would help me to understand uh, the areas that you have to practice or get used to, get familiar with. It's not just about configuring the things. Okay, so the way you talk also lets the others understand your experience or your level of expertise in a particular topic. So, so that's why I would definitely suggest the participants ask me something or talk about something, or maybe you can ask me if I can repeat any of the topics that I've covered so far, or maybe now I have asked you a question about the list of steps that we have to follow in a server configuration. I want you to talk. Please don't just keep posting the comments. So yeah, you can do that. So maybe when I'm in the middle of a topic, when I'm explaining something, rather than interrupting me, you can put your comments in the chat box. But when I'm free, when I'm asking you a question, so I would definitely suggest that you speak. Okay. Uh, so that would be useful for you, in fact. Okay. uh, all right, so that's pretty much. Let's get started with NFS service. So NFS server, or NFS service, network file sharing service. um, how if you have heard about the concept of shared folders. Okay, so that means we have seen with respect to the installation process as well, where NFS based installation is one of the process. Okay, so rather than okay, taking a quick example, so uh, rather than downloading software, okay, all the time by multiple people in an organization, so what we can do is we can download the software. Okay, have a single copy of all the software kept in a common shared folder, so that all the people can access the software from the shared folder. Okay, this way we can make an efficient utilization of the resources. There is a package which is 100 MB in size. Okay, so this package is necessary for say 100 participants. So rather than all the 100 participants download this 100 MB of package from the internet, make it available at a common point. Let everyone copy it from that shared folder. Okay, this is one aspect. Another aspect is some of the organizations, mainly in the financial sector, they prefer to add some security patches. They don't just make use of the packages that are available from the vendor. They might add some patches and all. So either you download it automatically in all the systems, or maybe you might prefer to share those packages, so that people who require those packages only would try to install it. So even in those cases, by adding all the security patches and all, you might want to keep it in a shared folder from where people can copy it and make use of it. Okay, so these are some of the benefits or uses of network file system. So to say it simply, so you create a folder in the server, okay, and you copy all the software to that folder, and you say that this folder has been shared across the network. Anyone who wants to access this, so this is an NFS based service, so you can have the corresponding client installed in your system and try to access the service and copy the files. So we'll see how to copy. So this is a basic usage of network file system or network file sharing service. Okay. Now, with respect to NFS service, the packages would start with NFS itself. So mainly NFS-utils is the name of the package. So you can do nfs hyphen utils yum install nfs hyphen utils. So that would help you to install the nfs related packages in your system. So one is here, one is CentOS 7, another one is CentOS 6. They're already installed. I'm just checking one dependent package if it is necessary to install. But you can just remember that it is nfs hyphen utils. If at all there is any latest version present, it will install that for you. Okay. So here it says this is an update. So we're done with the installation. So systemctl status nfs. Okay. So I did check the status for nfs server. It is active and loaded. There are no error messages, and I'm going to enable it. Okay. So in Red Hat 7, so it is called as nfs-server. Okay, systemctl enable nfs-server. Similarly, I think we can check it using nfs. Alright, so I have enabled it. Similarly, it's the same set of steps. Okay, I'm doing it in both the systems, but finally I will make one as the server and the other as a client. So it is the same nfs-utils, which is the package that is used to install in both the systems. One you can make it as server, other one as a client. Okay. So here service nfs status. Okay, so you can see that these are all the dependent services and it is running in your system. Similarly, chkconfig nfs on to enable it at the boot time. Okay, so this is done. Now once these are installed, the next step is identifying the important configuration files corresponding to NFS service. So Atc Exports. So this is the file. Atc Exports is the file that contains all the important configurations corresponding to NFS service. So what this file contains is, so it contains information about the shared folder. Okay, so imagine that CentOS 6 is the server, NFS server. Okay, then here what in this particular server I created a folder called /NFS. So there is something inside. What I'll do is I'll go there. I downloaded some software. Okay, so I'm going to create it. So I would say software 1, 2. So inside this folder, I have shared this all the softwares that I've downloaded. So anyone in my network, they can connect to my NFS service and they can copy these softwares rather than downloading it from the internet. Okay. So I created these softwares and then now I have installed NFS service, and then with NFS service comes this config file called Atc Exports. So inside Atc Exports, okay, so you can see that so there is a format to it. So the first column is the name of the shared folder where you have kept all the softwares. Okay, so it is /NFS. So it is up to you where you want to create the shared folder, and so make sure that you provide necessary permissions to that shared folder. Okay, so /NFS is the shared folder. So there are two things. One is information about the shared folder. Number two, uh, information about the set of users or the network to which you want to share this shared folder. That means this shared folder should be made available to only one specific person. That means one specific host. Okay, we'll quickly take some examples here. So some of the examples, right? So maybe you can say 192.168.1. I think this is okay. Let me check. This is 130. So I want to share this to 130. Okay, with this subnet mask. Then this shared folder is accessible only by this particular host. That means only requests that come from this particular host are allowed to make use of this particular folder. How to make use of it is a different thing. Forget about it. We haven't reached that step. Okay, just understand what I'm saying. So only request. Take request like a web request, HTTP request. Okay, just for example. So a request that comes from this particular IP address will be served. Other requests are not going to be served. Okay, in the previous example, star means any request. Okay, request coming from any place will be served. So this is another way of setting up some filters. Okay, restricting the users. Or what you can do is you can choose a specific domain. For example, you remember the domain convention that I've mentioned here. You can see this is redvm2 dot so what is the host name? I forgot. Saranvm.com. So what I'll do is I'll mention star.saranvm.com. So users who are user requests that are coming from this particular domain would only be allowed in my system. Got it? So that is how we can restrict the users. I mean, we can have an NFS service set up in such a way that either requests from a single system or from single specific subnet, okay, or requests coming from a specific domain can be set, can be configured. So what I'll do is now I'm going to use a simple uh, process to explain this. So this is what it is. Okay, clear? So this is the second field, and the third field is about the permissions. So what kind of permissions that you wanted to give for the users who are going to access this particular service. Okay, so you remember the different types of permissions that we have used with respect to the entries inside fstab file. So similarly, so even there we used permissions like read only and then sync, right? So even so we used a word called defaults. so which corresponds to a set of permissions. Similarly, even here with respect to, so there it is the manual partition that we have created, we are trying to mount it, and once you mount it, what should be the permissions associated. Similarly here it is a NFS based mount. There we are mounting an ext4 partition. Even though the partition here is ext4, the file system type is NFS. So this point is very important. So here when you are mounting, an NFS based file system. So the normal mounting concept that you learned so far is about a partition that you have created in the local system, and in order to access the local partition, you mount it to a point in your system and you try to access that folder. Okay, the same concept if the same partition, okay, is present in a network. Okay, imagine that a similar partition is there in a network. That means rather than saying a partition, I would say that there is a folder in the network. Okay, in order to access that particular folder, we need to mount the folder now. Usually we mount partition. Now we are going to mount the folder which is available in the network. Clear? And we have to explicitly say that this is an NFS based mount. Clear? So we are going to mount, similar to mounting a partition, we are going to mount a folder which is available in the network. So you mount that folder and explicitly mention that this is an NFS based mount. So once you have mounted it, we are going to access it. Now when you are mounting it, we are also going to say what permissions are associated for that mount point. So here it says some of the permissions, simple ones are RW, that means user who is going to mount will have a read-write access on the mount point. So user should be able to read and perform write operations after mounting that particular folder. Okay, and you can also have permissions like sync. That means sync means generally sync, the word it says that remain in sync, right? So remain in sync with what? So here so we have a server and then we have a client. Okay, so the client, once you have mounted the NFS service, okay, the client will have a particular view of the contents of the folder which is mounted. Okay, so there are 4 files inside in the server folder, and you have connected using NFS service, and you are able to see those 4 files in your client system. Okay, now imagine in the server side you tried to make some changes. Okay, inside that folder you added some more content. So we can decide whether this content is reflected immediately, or maybe performing some operation, these changes will get reflected. A sync option will ensure that the moment you commit, you perform some changes in the server side. So the NFS service will keep on maintaining that sync between the server and the client. So immediately those changes will be reflected in the client side. Okay, so that is another option. And we also have some options, another option like no root squash. Uh, just remember these 2 additional options that are used generally. And so no subtree check generally prevents so as the name says, okay, don't check the subtree folder structure. Okay, so it's like NFS basically performs, it will do a scan of all the directories which are present in that hierarchy. So just we ensure that NFS doesn't do that. Okay, so that is another option. And then we also have uh, no root squash, another option that I've mentioned over there, which means using this option we can also allow the root user to connect to the designated directory. So that's why we use no root squash also. Okay, so totally three important entries. One is the shared folder, the other one is the network to whom you want to share this. The third one is the permissions that must be associated with the shared folder. So once you have done this, so we can do export fs -r. I'm gonna just open man export fs. So etc exports is the configuration file. Export fs is the command. Okay, so I've just opened this. There are two options here. One is -a, which is to export all the directories. Okay, second one is -r, re-export all the directories. Okay, so far we have only one. I did export -r to simply reload. Say for example you have some entries inside Atc Exports folder. Okay, by doing -r it will try to re-export. It's like kind of remounting, making it available by considering any additional changes that we have done. Okay, so export fs -r, export fs -a. Perfect. Now what we do is, so how does a client identify uh, which shared folder is made available? A very common, obvious question, right? So there can be multiple servers systems in your network who might be sharing different softwares or folders in my network. So how do I know this? So first of all, let us check uh, from a local system perspective. So the command is show mount. That means show the mount points on the local system. Okay, so show mount -e localhost. It will say what are the exported folders. So now we'll take another system as client and then and say show mount. So even here the client package is installed. Show mount -e, mention the IP address 192.168.1.125. So this is the shared folder in the other 125 system, right? So that's what we checked from this particular system. So it is showing that okay, star means everyone is allowed to access this particular NFS folder. So I am also allowed to access NFS. So what I'll do now is, since I have access, I'm going to mount it. The syntax is the same, but as I said, the type must be NFS. So NFS-p, since this is a folder that is shared over the network. Okay, so how do we access the folders over the network? Remember the scp command. So we identify them by the IP address. This is how we do it, right? So first of all, IP address of the system :NFS. So on this system, this is the folder that is shared, and now we are going to mount it under temp, for example. See, it got mounted successfully. You can cross check using grep NFS. So it says 192.168.1.125:NFS is mounted on a folder called temp. NFS is the file system, and these are some of the corresponding permissions along with what we have provided. And now, so it is mounted under /temp. Software 1, 2, 3. So these are the files which are shared under the NFS folder. So now I can copy these files to my local system, make use of it. So once I'm done, I can unmount /temp. Did you observe this? As long as I'm under the mount point, it will not allow. We have to move out of it and then unmount it. Now if you check temp, So these are the files present in the local file system. So this is how you configure the server, keep the content in the server, and then make entries in the exports file, and then you enable it, make it available, then go to the client system, check the connectivity, check the available shared folders, mount them, start accessing them. And in the client side also, as I've shown, nfs-utils is the package that needs to be installed in the server as well as in the client side. Okay, perfect. Then just as I said, for CentOS service IP tables status, by default for CentOS IP tables is the firewall. It is not enabled by default. So what uh, I'm hoping is in your system also IP tables is not enabled. Okay, just check it if you are using CentOS 6. So since it is disabled, we'll not go into this topic, CentOS 6 topic now. Whereas for CentOS 7, the concept of firewall will be enabled by default. So here it's called as firewall only. In CentOS 6 it is called as IP tables. In 7 it is just the firewall only. So here Systemctl status firewall d.service. So this is how you check the firewall service in CentOS 7 or Red Hat 7. So this is very important. For now, we'll just go through how to check the firewall service and how to add NFS service to firewall. You can check systemctl status firewall d.service. You can restart. You can reload. Okay. Now, once you check it, the next thing is the command is firewall -cmd. Okay, if you're in, okay, let me check. So this is in graphical mode. So let's start the graphical mode so that it will give you an overview. Remember this command start X to start your graphical mode. Okay, so since we haven't discussed about the firewall concept, I would suggest that you remember this command called firewall -config. Okay, as long as you're in a graphical mode, it will open this this page for you where you can see all the information about the firewalls. If you are familiar with Windows firewalls, it's just the same. Okay, so just go through this information. There are some zones inside the firewall. These are all the different zones: public, private. We can create separate zones, and here are your services. Here it says that so currently we are in the public zone. This zone, these are all the services available in our system. Okay, so DHCP v6-client is the service that is enabled, and NFS service is enabled. So it is I have enabled it. So what you can do is you can just click on you can open this and click on the corresponding service. Okay, so automatically NFS service will be enabled for you. Similarly, what else is there? So SSH is there. SSH is the only service that will be made available by default. So going forward, okay, when we install a service, quickly, one way is open this and click on the corresponding service, then the firewall is enabled. That means, so basically whenever uh, internally, right, the communication happens at a package level. When you're sending a request, packages are sent uh, uh, from one system to another system. Okay, so these packages, the firewall will try to identify those packages. It will check the information. So every package will have information like, so what is the service it is representing, what is the IP address from where it is coming, what is it trying to do, all this information is there. So the firewall will check that particular service. And since we have made an entry in the firewall, the moment it will check that, okay, NFS service is enabled. So if the package is representing NFS service, then it will allow that packet to go through the firewall. Okay, so that is what the firewall do. So this is what you do. You enable it. So here NFS is enabled. Once it is enabled, okay, you can simply close this. You can also just go through the services here. What are the ports? You have a lot of information here. So with respect to firewall, we'll learn how to add the services using command line as well as using the tool to the existing firewall service. Okay, and also you can choose whether you want to add it permanently to the existing zones. It has been added. Okay, so the advantage with the tool, if you remember, even with the networking service, what we have seen is the moment you add it using the tool, the service would also be automatically reloaded in the background. Say reload firewall. So once you make some changes, okay, so reloading the firewall rules, what it will ensure is, so it will ensure that all the latest changes are being picked up along with the changes that you have done. Okay, that's it. Now we'll go back. So this is what we'll do with each and every service. Okay, and I'm going to close that. So that is one way. Okay, and some of the basic ones. Yeah, get. So if you have observed, I'm using the tab. So this is the new feature in 7. It will provide all the, I mean, you can use the tab completion feature that will list out the, uh, it will print, if you just give some hint, it will print the rest of the argument on the command prompt. So here it says that this is the default zone enabled for the firewall. We did check that even in the tool, right? And what else you can do is, so this is the default zone, and in the default zone we can also check the active zones. So this is the interface that is currently enabled and it is active in our system. Okay, and then to get uh, so these are the services, list all. That means what services are currently being added: DHCP client, NFS, SSH. Okay, so these are currently being added to the service. Similarly, say for example, if you want to add, okay, a service, for example, it's the NFS service only. So then what we have to do is the same way you have to uh, use the firewall-cmd command in order to permanently add a service. For example, firewall-cmd, and you define zone is equal to public. So anyhow, public is the default zone. So if you want to add this to a specific zone, so this is how you mention the zone. Okay. So with respect to public, it is okay even if you don't mention it, and then say that you want to permanently add it. Okay, hyphen permanent, and then hyphen add service. Okay, is equal to HTTP. Enter. See, it says success. Okay, so once you have added it, so you need to reload the firewall service. Okay, you remember the option that we have seen over there. So where after we have added it, we have reloaded it. So for that, firewall-cmd reload. So restarting the service, kind of. Okay, and then you can again quickly check by doing list all. So HTTP is being added. Clear? So that's it. So remember these 5. In fact, 3 are sufficient. Remember how to start the firewall service: systemctl status firewall-cmd. Okay, firewall service. Similarly, start, stop, and enable firewall or disable the firewall service, and then list all the services by doing list all, and then you can add using the command where you can specify zone is equal to public, add permanently, add the service. Okay, and then you can cross check by doing list all, and then don't forget to reload the firewall service once you have added it. So this helps you to have the connectivity. In case if you are unable to test it, there is a possibility that firewall is not, there is a firewall rule is not created for the corresponding service. And just create the rule, and then you can test the connectivity between the server and the client using the normal commands that we have seen so far. Alright, so these are all the different steps that so we thought of following in the beginning. So we followed all these steps till the firewall command. Any questions in this particular topic? Any questions so far? All right, everyone. So So I wanted to have just 1 hour session today, uh, and at the same time I would like to inform you that from tomorrow we'll have a 2 hour session. Okay, so it has been quite some time we have started having these classes, and I'm hoping that you have done enough practice, and now you're in a position to take up uh, additional topics. In fact, we have almost reached the server configurations. We are going to speed up the process a bit. So rather we usually have 1.5 hour session, we'll try to have 2 hour sessions from tomorrow. Okay, so please revise the topics. I will just come up with the list of any missing topics if there are, and then we'll try to cover the rest of the server configurations as well. We have a few more server configurations. We'll revise IP tables concept and firewall topics also from tomorrow. Okay, it would be a 2 hour session from tomorrow for the rest of the classes. So be prepared, come prepared, ask me questions. And I am also preparing a set of questions. We'll also have a question answer session from tomorrow. I do have some queries. I'm also coming with additional interview questions and all those patterns. So we'll have a discussion on all that. So unless you are prepared, we have practiced all the topics, you know, you may not be able to make use of all the information that I'm going to provide you. So try to spend some time and be prepared for tomorrow's class, for the rest of the classes from tomorrow. All right. So that's pretty much I wanted to cover for today's session. If you have any additional questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, we can wind up the session for the day. All right, everyone. So I don't see any questions so far. So I'm hoping that you don't have any queries. All right. Thank you so much for attending today's class. See you in tomorrow's session. Okay. Have a great day. Bye bye.